Yeah, so we are live. Hello, everybody. And yeah, West Ham won, United 3. So, George, what do you think of the game, man? I mean,
Yeah, really was not even so much a game of two halves. I think it was almost a game of one and a half halves of where West Ham were quite dominant, I thought, and I felt we didn't really play too well. Not sure whether it's a sort of hangover of the disappointing result midweek against PSG, but as I said, I think that first sort of first half and certainly up till probably about the just past the hour mark as well. I think we were quite disappointing. We looked exceptionally frail. I think in defence. I think we every time that West Ham attacked, we seemed to sort of struggle. With our defence were all over the place, and I think attacking wise, we we didn't really create too much. I think there was a Martial shot as well that in the first half that where he should have sort of tried to curl it in the opposite corner. He went near post, which was sort of epitomised how poorly he played. I thought, and then I believe that Martial went off when it was still 1-0 to them. I think, and obviously we brought on Mata, but I think it was just I think he did have a very poor game, and obviously then we get
yeah.
three goals in quite quick succession, which turns the game on its head. And you can really see how
Hmm.
that when we start hitting the ground running and gelling, you can see how
Yeah.
potent and prolific we actually are. So very very pleased, obviously overall though with the result, and obviously it puts us fourth now in the Premier League table. So
Yeah, the only concern, I mean, we did play well. I mean, the first half was dreadful. The second half, it's like we always a one half team when we play well.
yes,
And it's been it's not just under Oli. It's been on and a very old concern we have, because it's I think we've always been a one half team, when whether we lose or when, like, under Mourinho as well, we have been a one half team. One half we play well, one the other we don't. So it's kind of like that. Like, if you look at the recent games against Brighton, I mean, I think it was a lucky win, but then we somehow came back. The game against, was it the previous game against, who was it against?
so we had Southampton, didn't we? Obviously
Yeah,
the most
Southampton. Yeah,
recent
yeah,
one, and obviously Brighton was before that, and I think.
yeah.
Um, I believe that in all of our away games now in the Premier League, obviously we've now got 9 consecutive wins away in
Mm-hmm.
the Premier League. But I believe that we've now had, I think in all the matches this season away from home, we've had to come from behind. And again, of course, we had to do that. Despite the fact that it was brought up, I think it was MUTV that brought it up to Harry Maguire and said that is obviously, I think it was after, I can't remember which game it was. It might have been Southampton, or it might have possibly have been another one of the matches. But he said to Harry Maguire, "Isn't that a bit?" Obviously, it's not. I think it was the record as well. 4 times that United have come back from behind, as it's the first time a Premier League team's ever
Mm-hmm.
done that, to actually obviously win all those matches consecutively. And he obviously said to Maguire, "Is that a concern?" And Maguire said that it was. But obviously, we're still having, as you've sort of pointed out with Mourinho and now with Ollie, we're still having these incredibly disappointing first halves, and they're relying on our
Yeah.
strike force to bail us out, which you can't always do. Unfortunately, you can't. We're on an extremely good run, obviously away from home, but
Mm-hmm.
we've got one of these days this is going to cost us, because you can't just keep conceding goals and then expecting to get back into it. Sooner or later, your luck's going to run out. Um, and I'm pleased, obviously, with the result, because you know West Ham away has been a tricky sort of hunting ground, or match for us in recent seasons. We had the horrendous game where I became sort of Mourinho out back in 2018, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
2019. We remember we obviously lost with Ollie as well, and he again, I was incredibly disappointed that match. So it's been quite some time since we've won at West Ham, since 2017. So it's good to get 3 points when we normally wouldn't get any points. So yeah, very positive.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's been positive. The only concern is, I think the challenge would be when we, I mean, play at home against any decent squad. Because even West Ham, they're not a decent team. I mean, and still we had problems against them, and we had chances, but then we couldn't take those chances, and eventually, it was just a 1-0 win. I think it was just a weird game. I think that game. I mean, we scored with a penalty, like, in that game. It was really dull. So I think the challenge would be at home, because we know away our form has been good. we've been winning games away.
Yes.
So, and it plays to our hand, kind of. It plays into our hand because teams attack us when they play at home and we play away, and
Yeah.
this help us to hit them on the counter, score goals on the counter. Because all the goals we have scored, like, was from a counter. The Dean Henderson, he lofted a shot which ended up in Pogba scoring, and then the Greenwood goal came from a counter. The Rashford one, the Mata pass, that
Yes.
one pass Mata made, right? He
Yeah.
scored from there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was obviously it was. I'll be quite interested as well, just on Match of the Day or when they sort of analyse it in more detail. I'd be quite
Yeah.
interested to see whether Dean Henderson's kick on that first goal went out of play, or whether they can
Yeah.
actually establish that, because it was it was quite tight, and obviously Moyes was understandably irate about the fact
Mhm.
that he felt it had gone over the touchline. So it would be quite interesting to find out. But obviously, from that moment on, when Bruno receives it, he sort of cuts inside, and then obviously delivers a simple, quite nice little layoff to Pogba, and then the
Yeah.
finish is absolutely world class. That's a point where you need someone to step up, and Paul Pogba's just absolutely rifled in from about 35 yards. Perfect goal. The only way that he's going to score that goal, and gets us back into it. And obviously, the second goal was, I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was, it was some good work down the left, obviously, with and then Telles. I'm really pleased for him as well, because he supplies the cross, but Greenwood still had a lot to do, and obviously the control was really, really good, and sort of places it back into his own path, into Greenwood's path, and then obviously a superb finish from someone who's can only get better, and obviously has all the potential in the world. And then, as you sort of mentioned, with the Mata, if there's one thing Mata can do, it's deliver a telling or cutting pass. But obviously, at that point, West Ham, as you've spoken about, are attacking. So it's us on the counter attack when there's empty space. There's lots of space behind, and obviously Rashford times his run perfect. I think it was Ogbonna, who was playing him on that run, and obviously he's got a one-on-one, and he finishes it extremely calmly and in a composed manner. But yeah, it was some really good finishes, but ultimately the first half in particular was absolutely diabolical. I think for me the sort of I think one of our worst players, if not our worst player, was, as I've sort of spoken about before, I think it was Anthony Martial, because I feel like he just couldn't. He was really struggling to sort of hold the ball up. It seemed like every time the ball went to him, and he was required to hold up. I can't remember, because it obviously in the second half it sort of it wasn't the case. But whichever defender they had against him kept on winning the ball, and every time he'd try and go short, and he just kept on winning the ball against Martial, and he just couldn't hold it up. And obviously then he gets the injury and is taken off, and things get sort of improved from there, because he was losing the ball too often. And also we are quite, going back to that first half with that corner. It's a corner again that we've conceded, which was exactly the same as against Southampton. Where Ollie, again, this is something I can sort of criticise him on, is he's not learning from his mistakes. So we're still tactically on corners, we're still setting up a zonal marking. And again, the zonal marking didn't work at all. They got a run on our player, and obviously Souček, wasn't it, at the back post? He's got a free tap in. So I think Ollie really does, either he needs to get the zonal marking working much better, or he needs to go man for man, because if they can't do zonal marking, there's no point. We can't have so many frailties from corners, because it's such a sloppy goal. And obviously, the other thing I would say is that they had so many chances as well in that latter part of that first half to score another one and make it really difficult for us. I think one of their players hit the post, didn't he, with a stabbed sort of shot. Then luckily Dean Henderson got it back into his hands. But they had lots and lots of chances. And obviously also, was it? I can't remember if it was Jared Bowen. I think it was, who was on the who should have scored from the tap in when Aaron Wan-Bissaka was sliding back. It was obviously right at the start of the second half. One of their players, I think it was Jared Bowen, had a chance to make it 2-0 and possibly change the or make the game exceptionally difficult, and didn't take it. So the game was really of fine margins, but obviously a real incisive quality in about 15-20 minute period for United has changed the game and got us the win.
But I think that's what football is about. I mean, fine margins sometimes,
Yeah.
and you just got to take. It was a good. In the end, it was a good performance in the second half. But yeah, I can see what you're saying. Red Devil says that kick was definitely out. Yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, I agree, kind of. But it wasn't clear. I didn't see it well though. Paper in over the cracks again. That when whoever invented zonal marking needs shooting. Uh, yeah. I mean, I don't know about the win though. Is it papering over the cracks or not? I think we were a bit like lucky in the first half. I think those chances West Ham had, but I think it's their fault, right? They missed those chances. It's football. I mean, like we had chances as well in the second half. Greenwood had two. I think Greenwood had a chance. Rashford had a chance with the post, and yeah, I think sometimes you need a bit of luck, in winning. And I think we're in a good position now, like 19 in the table, fourth position. Or
Yes. Yeah. It's really,
yeah,
really sort of positive. But I think, I was thinking more in sort of, because I do sort of agree with Red Devil in the fact that
yeah,
there are cracks, especially I think in our defence.
hmm
I think we've seen over this season, we've seen lots of different personnel changes in midfield and up front. But in defence, it's always the same two. It's always, nearly always anyway. And we've had a couple of occasions where we've seen Tuan Sabi, but very rarely he's been given hardly any chances, which again is a bugbear of mine. But we've seen pretty much all the time. We've seen Victor Lindelof and Harry Maguire, and time again, as I said, we've gone behind in matches. So that's probably, like, I think that's the fifth time in a row, isn't it? I think we've extended the record of 5 away wins,
yeah,
whatever it is, coming from behind that record that we had. But it's all the time. It's just silly goals to concede. And it's forcing our attackers to have to score all the time, and have to score more than one. So it is papering over the cracks to a certain extent, and I think we do
yeah,
need at least one new centre back, because those two, especially after that first goal went in, although West Ham were sort of dominant at that point, they became, until obviously the first half finished, when they had all those sort of glut of chances and they were getting getting in at all occasions. Maguire and Lindelof went to pieces. There was
yeah,
times where neither of them were picking up anybody, and they were still just
yeah.
shouting at random people as though it was their fault. So those two are
hmm
certainly a suspect defensive partnership, if ever I've
Yeah,
seen one.
I think Eric says Rashford is man of the match. I think, yeah, in contention he could be. He had an influence as well. Dietrich says it has to be Bruno changed the game. I agree. I even felt the same. Red Devil says sell Martial. I would be he needs to be ruthless. I don't know about that. Martial, I think he did had a shot. I mean, it was a good save at the keeper. He did had a shot on like target. But I think Martial is. I don't know if he's trying too hard. Is he out of form? I don't know what's wrong with him, to be
This
honest.
match just sort of, he has been terribly out of form this season. Obviously, there was a couple of chances that he missed, especially one of them against Leipzig. Sorry, against PSG, I should say, where he should have buried. He should have buried one of them in particular. But yeah, today again, like I said, it wasn't even so much of the sort of shots or his composure in front of goal, because obviously he did have that shot where he should have gone the other side of the keeper, but it wasn't a glorious chance or a gilt edged chance, but it was more his hold up play today was absolutely atrocious. Like all the time, I don't know. I'll have to sort of see the statistics on it, but it seemed like every time when we were trying to get out of the from West Ham's press, the ball went into Martial and it was like off a brick wall. It was like back to Lukaku times, because the hold up play today from Martial was terrible. As I said, whoever his direct competitor was on that field won it countless times, and they kept on forcing us back. So he was really, really bad today, Martial.
Yeah,
Probably our worst player, in my opinion, anyway.
yeah, I agree.
It for me as well. Obviously, Paul Pogba was very, very good again today.
Yeah,
As you know, I'm a big Paul Pogba fan, but he was particularly good today. He was, all the sort of ball recoveries, passing. He made the most passes in the match. and obviously, like I said, a world-class goal at a time when we needed one, because that sort of sets the ball rolling for the comeback. So he was absolutely excellent as well. I think Van der Beek had very limited involvement, I think, in the match as well. Whether that was because he was being sort of crowded out, but it was very difficult, I think, for our forwards because, as I said, it seemed like Martial was always the out ball, but his hold up play just couldn't. The ball just wouldn't stick. So in that period, it was very difficult for us to mount concerted pressure because Martial just couldn't hold on to the ball.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I hope he gets in form. And Martial, look, in my opinion, if this was Rashford having a poor performance, I think there would be some fans which I'm not saying there's an agenda against some players. I agree, but do you think it would have been more? There would be much more of an outrage if that was Rashford, because I mean people have been critical of him, and I think Rashford, he did miss a chance, but he scored another one, and he was quite good in the game in the second half, I think. And so, do you think if that was Rashford instead of Martial, do you think it would have been a different story or something?
I think that in general the media do concentrate more on foreign players rather than British ones. So I think there is definitely more of a criticism of our foreign players than there is for British players. I definitely think that's the case. But I think Martial is very much someone who is quite a polarizing player in our sort of, in terms of lots of people really like him and lots of people don't necessarily rate him. I think obviously happy birthday to him, because I think he turned 25, didn't he, today? Anthony Martial, sort of happy birthday things, but that's quite an important milestone in most footballers. Is this sort of period between 25 to 30 is when you're supposed to be hitting your prime. He's no longer he's no longer going to be classified as a young player by any means. So we really do need to start seeing some sort of consistency from him, because he does have lots of excellent attributes. It's just about seeing the consistency. And this season, he has been, in most games he's played, he's been very bad. Very poor in front of goal, and not really offering things. And that's why obviously Cavani's had his chance, hasn't he? Because albeit he came in obviously and scored those vital goals and was superb against Southampton, but that's why Cavani's now playing as the main man at 33 up top, when we thought everyone in the summer was thinking that when Cavani came in he'd be a subsidiary striker or someone who'd like come off the bench and stuff, or play a supportive role. But now Cavani sort of like thrust himself in as the main man at 33. So and this is the sort of challenge that Martial should relish and should be looking to overcome and make and earn his place to be the centre forward, so that Cavani's on the periphery, because ultimately he's supposed to be a support striker, and he's now playing every match. So
yeah, I agree. Fair enough. Yeah. So what do you think?
What was that? Sorry.
You're seeing something right at the stop.
No, I was just saying that I think Martial really does need to sort of step up and become more consistent than he is. Rashford was. I agree with you. I think Rashford in that second half. I mean, obviously, I saw all the when I think Gary Neville gave him man of the match, didn't he? At the very end on Sky Sports. So, and I saw all the statistics where he was first in so many different aspects of the game. So he did, but he was very much to the eye to see. Rashford did provide all those sort of runs, and as King Eric has just said, all the runs and pushing forward that Martial wasn't offering. Like I said, Martial today was terrible, absolutely abysmal. Couldn't hold the ball up, didn't run in behind. On that King Eric one, so Pogba good, his passing was disgusting. So Paul Pogba versus West Ham. 85 passes, the most on the pitch out of any player, and 87% passing accuracy, 10 recoveries, 12 long balls.
But Kyle, people would say that people would say that stats don't matter.
No, it's Paul Pogba was brilliant today.
It's good.
I really, like I said, I mean, I obviously it's very hard for me to be unbiased with Pogba, but I will say when he plays poorly. So, for instance, when he had a couple of things, obviously against Arsenal, when he gave away that stupid penalty, or when he gave away the penalty against West Ham, wasn't it, at the Old Trafford last season, which when he could put his obviously like that and gave it away for a handball. I will say when he does something poorly, but today he was very, very good. And obviously, I was quite frustrated that we didn't get to do a post-match show after PSG because of how badly Fred played. And I've obviously had a lot of stick about saying that Fred isn't necessarily a good enough player to be a Manchester United player. But I think on Wednesday, just as an aside, I won't delve into it too deeply. But you saw in midweek, one of the most just utterly stupid by Fred. Should have got sent off in that for that sort of headbutt or moving his head towards him, and then kept on trying to hack people and all sorts. So for me, as an aside, it would be better if we did have ultimately better players playing in our team, and I don't necessarily think that Fred sort of fulfills that role, because ultimately, obviously, it was very disappointing against PSG. But like I said, it's good when players are playing well. Pogba had a very good game. Bruno, I think, as well. Just as an aside, as well, he had. I think he created the most chances in any Premier League game, and he obviously only played 45 minutes in this season, so he was very influential as well. But an excellent win at a ground where we normally don't get anything.
Yeah, King Eric says Pogba's goal papered over the cracks of a terrible performance. I think the result in a whole great it's papering of the cracks. I don't think so. I want to see us not being a one-half team kind of. I know it's football, so you need to we kind of defended well, but it's kind of like West Ham where they opposed a lot of threat in the first half. But I wouldn't go into it much because as you see how the league is going on, it's kind of a crazy season, right? Anyone can beat anyone, and you don't know what the result is going to be. It's kind of unpredictable. So the result is massive 3 points, and as you see, like Leeds are 1-0 up against Chelsea, if that's still the result. So it's kind of coming into a good week for us. So yeah, it's just brilliant. We just need to keep up the consistency. The next game is against RB Leipzig in the Champions League, and Diedrich comes up. It says like, share, and subscribe. Do it. Anyways, Cavani and Martial injuries. Who starts on Tuesday? Are they injured?
Well, Martial was injured, obviously, wasn't he? Because he got hurt. I mean, he played like he was injured the entire match for me. Like I said, it's he was so bad, but obviously he got injured, didn't he? And then he was sort of pulling up and acting, he couldn't really walk or anything, so he had to go off for Juan Mata. So he's definitely injured, and obviously Cavani went off at half time. I'm not sure if that was injury related, but it may well be. Obviously, if King Eric's saying so. I think against Leipzig, it's going to be a very interesting game. I think we need to. It's obviously do or die, isn't it? Although we need a draw, we need to go there and try and win the match. For me, one of the most disappointing things that not a lot of people have talked about, in terms of the PSG result, was the fact that we ended up losing it 3-1. And the reason I bring that up is because now PSG are ahead of us because of their better head-to-head record against us. Because if we'd kept it to 2-1, we could have beaten Leipzig and known we'd go first. And obviously, it's very important for us to know it would have been, and hopefully, like results will conspire that we will do it anyway. But it would have been very good for us to have come first, to have got a weaker opponent in the second round. Now, obviously, even if we do beat Leipzig, PSG will probably beat Başakşehir or whatever the names are in the final match, and we'll go in and we'll play someone a lot poorer. Whereas we've obviously got, even if we do get through against Leipzig, we're going to have quite a good team. So I think our options are probably Bayern, Barcelona, and then I think there's only 2 other teams, because obviously all the other English teams are going to win their groups or have won their groups.
Yeah.
So that was very disappointing for me. But in terms of who's going to start on Tuesday, obviously it's a conundrum for Ollie. he knows he can't start Fred, obviously because of his disgraceful antics on last week. He really did cost us on that as well, because if he'd stayed on, if we'd stayed with 11 players, we were better than PSG. That was the thing. That was the most frustrating thing, was we were that second half, especially that first half of the second half before their goal, we were the better team. We were having all the chances. Obviously, Martial and Cavani hit the bar with his nice little chip. And then Fred, after the second goal, just compounds it. Just means we lose. Obviously, we could have come back. We could have got an equaliser that would have sent us through, or even got a potential winner and stuff. And Fred just totally cost us the game. But yeah, so who starts on Tuesday? I think he'll probably look to bring in some more defensive players. It might even be a back five, because obviously Tuan Sabi will be back, I think, now, won't he? Because he was suspended for the PSG game, so he might look to bring in Tuan Sabi and try and play a back five, playing him in there as well, and try and hit Leipzig on the counter, sort of soak up the pressure, do the typical away performance. But yeah, it's certainly going to be very interesting. I think I hope and pray that we're not going to go into the Europa League again, because I couldn't stand that. If we, I can't stand another Europa League season. So we do need to get a draw or a win, hopefully a win. And we're hopefully going to see some good personnel up there. He might, as I said, it's probably going to be a back five with Wan-Bissaka, Telles, Lindelof, Maguire, and Tuan Sabi. For me, in a way, that's what we might play. Then probably might be Henderson in goal, maybe, because De Gea, I think, is injured, isn't he? And then obviously, the midfield three will probably be Scott, Matic, and Bruno, probably. And then obviously up top, he'll probably play Rashford and Greenwood. That's the likely team we might see, but it might be that. Oh yeah, possibly. Yeah, so King Eric said maybe the dime with two up front again, Rashford and Greenwood. So I think it might be that if Cavani and Martial are out, that's probably the only thing we can play, because unless he's going to sort of start putting in like Dan James or something, and we're just going to hit long balls. So yeah, it's going to be something along those lines. It's annoying for us that these injuries are happening as well, though, because one of the things that's very important to have, if you are going to mount a title challenge, which we're hopefully going to do now, we know certainly in terms of points, we're certainly in the mix now. One of the things that you need in that time is you need to be injury free. You need to have few injuries, and that's what ultimately costs teams if they're trying to get top four or title challenges. It's too many injuries, so it's disappointing that they've got injured.
But I think every team is getting. This is a weird season, because I think every team is getting injuries. You could Liverpool, they're getting injuries, but they're still winning games and enjoying games. So I know it's Liverpool, but they're still getting injuries. So I think it's going to cost them as well. They're going to drop points as well at some point. So it depends upon. I think it depends upon I think we will see what happens in the latter stages of the season and how it's going on, and who's more consistent. And if 3-4 teams are jumping in for a title challenge, who knows? You never know.
Well, the thing is,
it's that kind of season.
Yes, right? The thing is now, obviously, we're only a month out now, aren't we? Less than a month, in fact. We're out from the January transfer window. So we obviously had the little sort of message from Ed Woodward about him being able to back Ollie, but there's also he mentioned an emphasis on summer transfer windows, not winter ones. Obviously, we've got Amad Diallo, haven't we, coming in from, I can't remember who he plays for, it's Atalanta, isn't it? But obviously he's coming in, that exciting youngster. But if we are, we're currently right in the mix now in this top four race, or even potentially a title now. We're only a couple of points off, 2 points off with the same amount of games played. We need to, if Ed Woodward has any, any principles or scruples whatsoever, he needs to put it in order for us to try and win a title, or at least get in contention. He needs to back Ollie in this window that's coming up. We desperately need. Ultimately, we probably need 4 players. We need 4 signings in 4 key positions that I've spoken about previously, which is centre back, central defensive midfielder, right winger, and centre forward. But obviously, with Cavani there for the moment, so we can maybe shelve that temporarily, and obviously, hopefully, either one of Diallo or Palestri is going to come in for the right wing. But centre back and centre defensive midfielder are so vital. Especially in the fact that more than anything though is that centre back, because Maguire and Lindelof have had next to no rest. I mean, that's partially Ollie's fault because he just won't play Tuanzebe, but they've had zero rest, and that's going to cost us. And that could cost us eventually with fatigue or injuries from those two. And ultimately, obviously, they're not good enough either. So I'm hoping at least a centre back in that winter transfer window. At least, I mean, he should be looking at least probably centre back, centre defensive midfield. Like I said, at least two more acquisitions. But like I said, knowing this board as I do, and Ed Woodward and how slow he is, centre back is the priority in that window.
So finally, who's your man of the match for today's game?
I'm going to give man of the match to Paul Pogba. Excellent performance from him. He's had lots of critics, and sort of coming back from injury as well, and playing so well against West Ham. So many good passes. Recovering ball tackles and things, and really good play, as well as a simply world class, superb goal for that equaliser that gets us right back in the match at a time when we needed a goal to get back into it. So it's Paul Pogba for me. Also excellent performances from Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford off the bench. And yeah, like I said, there was some, and obviously an incredible goal from Mason Greenwood as well. Really important for his performance and confidence to get that goal, and it was really, really good. But Paul Pogba for me, there were a few candidates, but Paul Pogba, man of the match for me.
For me, I think it's Bruno Fernandes, because he's an influential player. As soon as he came on the second half, you could see the difference in how we are playing. He's got leadership qualities, and he's been carrying the team like in previous games as well, like the Everton game, the game against Southampton. So he's been carrying this team. Look, I always said he needs to. I wanted him to be kept. I mean, I'm okay with Maguire being captain because he's been decent as a centre back pairing with Lindelof. They've been decent recently. So, but I really want Bruno to be captain instead of Maguire. I still want him to be captain. I don't know. I mean, every fan wants him to be captain.
My sort of the final thing on that is that yes, he should be. They should look to make him captain, but also in terms of just the centre backs as well. It's one of those things. I was thinking about this as well, where if you have a science experiment and you change certain things, so obviously you alter certain variables, but you keep a constant to try and identify what's causing something. And I think what we found this season is that even if we change, the midfield's gone through lots of different changes. We've had obviously Fred in there, McTominay, Matic, Bruno, Van der Beek, Pogba, Mata, whoever it might be. We've had lots of them. James sometimes sort of like playing in the midfield 4 or whatever. And we've had up front, we've had all sorts of changes as well. Cavani, Martial, Rashford, Greenwood, sometimes James, whoever it might be. But in that centre back partnership, like I said, Tuanzebe's had nowhere near enough chances for whatever reason. Ollie just won't use him, and it's just constantly Maguire and Lindelof. And for me, that's where the heart of our problems are. Is that defence? Because they're the constant. They're all these games that we start incredibly poorly in. It's not only the fact that we're conceding first in all of these games. Like I said, I think it's now 5 games in a row away from home, whatever we've conceded first and then won. It's not only the conceding of goals, it's also the entire. It's how we set up in the fact that we have to play these 2 central defensive midfielders, and also how much we have to cover them and track back for them, and Wan-Bissaka has to come in for Lindelof to try and cover that side, and it's just the entire team is so negatively influenced by how poor the foundation we have is. Lindelof and Maguire, something's got to be done about them, whether that is bringing in Tuanzebe or, like I said, as I've sort of alluded to previously, for me in January, in less than a month's time, Ed Woodward needs to get his finger out, go to Leipzig, if that is obviously, and get up Meccano or get some centre back immediately in. And we're going to see, hopefully, with a truly top quality centre back, we'll see a massive improvement, not only in the defence, but also the entire team, because they then feel more confident and able to leave the centre backs to themselves, and we'll see a much better performance throughout. Because we can't keep having these poor starts. Obviously, as King Eric said, when you start getting better, we can't constantly concede these goals that are forcing us to come back from matches. So.
Yeah, apart from I would say the left back, right? Apart from the left back positions, I think in the left back area we're quite good because we have Telles, Luke Shaw. We have options,
Yeah, I'd say
but then yeah, go
Yeah, I'd
on.
say left. I'd say sorry, left back. Yeah, Luke Shaw, and obviously Luke Shaw again is exceptionally injury prone. I mean, no one would take me up on a bet that I had that Luke Shaw would get injured before Christmas. This was obviously a few months
Yeah,
ago, and obviously he has
yeah.
got injured because that's just what happens with Luke Shaw. He just cannot stay fit. But obviously Alex Telles is an enable deputy. Got his assist for Greenwood's goal, I believe, and has been obviously created so many chances for us. And his crossings, as I've sort of mentioned before in the comments, I sort of cry with happiness every time I see him rather than Luke Shaw. So sort of left back's very good, and obviously right back. Although we need Wan-Bissaka to contribute more attacking wise, we can see that defensively he is still very solid. There was obviously the tackle he made. One thing we haven't brought up was that tackle in the first half where, admittedly, he sort of messed up his control, but then obviously Bowen was going through, and then Wan-Bissaka came out of absolutely nowhere and just slid right across, and it was one of those, world class tackle. So I think those two positions, although you might want a bit of depth, the priority is still those centre backs because, like I said, even if Ollie thinks that Maguire and Lindelof are top quality or world class centre backs or however he thinks, because I'm not in his head as to what he thinks about them, he constantly plays them. So it's either he thinks that like I said, he either thinks they're incredibly good quality or he doesn't rate the people who can come in. So whether that's Eric Bailly or Tuanzebe or whoever that might be, he doesn't rate them. So either way though, even if he does rate them, we still need someone else in there to swap out because you need to be able to rotate in terms of centre backs. So that, as I said, priority in January, world class centre back for me. And hopefully Ed Woodward, I mean, if he's watching, he needs to deliver that for me for my Christmas present in January.
Yeah, sure. Before we close the stream, Eric says United need to be more proactive and less reactive. I agree. We need to start games better. I agree. Yeah, I mean, look, it's well and good playing against like West Ham and all these teams, and yeah, you can be a bit lucky because sometimes these teams don't take their chances. But when you're coming against teams like Liverpool, City, Spurs, Chelsea, these are then this is the whole game changes because they also are fighting for points. We also fighting for points. Because sometimes these small teams can be a bit naive in the way they play. I've seen it before. Like, so I think big challenge will come against the team.
City. Yeah, not obviously continuing on from your point. I think City are now next, aren't they? I think after that, I'm pretty sure I'll have to check again the fixtures, but it's either I think City are our next Premier League match. So we're going to see how well this defence sort of combats or contains City, who, to be fair, have been quite inconsistent themselves this season. So it's anyone's game, but we're going to need everyone on top billing because again, what we want to do is we want to have, again, like we had last season, we want to do the double over City. We want to beat them both home and away in the league and get the 6 points. So yeah, onwards and upwards for this team. And hopefully, like I said, we need to win as many of these matches now until January. And then Woodward, much like he did with Bruno Fernandes last January, when he brought in an inspirational top quality signing for a place that we needed, a position we desperately needed, is the most obvious position AM for centre back. Now he needs to go in there again, spend his entire. I don't care if he spends. I mean, obviously, I don't want him to do this, but I don't care if he spends until like the last 2nd of January negotiating up Makano or whoever the centre back is. He needs to bring him in. I don't just bring him in. No excuses whatsoever for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we need some player in January who can influence the team like Bruno did, and maybe who knows, what happens after that. But anyways, I mean, Chelsea are 1-1 but I hope Leeds win.
So do I. Yeah.
To close the gap a bit. Yeah. Anyways, it's nice talking to you, Kyle. And
yeah, thank you very much, Pankaj, for having me on. Yeah.
Yeah. Today Marcus wasn't on, so yeah, came on.
That's perfect. I think we've done a good job on the post match. Got through quite a few good important points. So yeah, pleasure to come on as always. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. See you all next time.
Thank you very much, all.